And our special guest here, who's actually joining us, it's the voice of Gaming Weekly, Adrian Matt. Are you there?
Hey man, how's it going?
Awesome. I just have a few questions to ask you. My first question is, how did you actually join the Gaming Weekly?
So, first and foremost, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to actually do this. I don't do this often for various reasons. One of the reasons is because nobody wants to interview me. No, but seriously, thank you so much for giving me the chance. It's going to be a lot of fun. When I first joined the Gaming Weekly about 10 years ago in 2012, I was actually a student journalist at my school at the time, and I was handling the newspaper duties. I was interviewing the student body, the students, the teachers, the principals, and so forth, and I was covering all the stories that were happening at the time. And I also was a part of the TV production where I was handling the camera equipments, I was doing PSAs, I was doing sound bites, I was handling the announcements. So I had a pretty good journalism background, but I never really had a solid, strong gaming background. One day over the weekend, though, I was playing Halo casually, and sometimes when I got bored, I would just mute my mic and commentate a WWE match. That's what I would do when I was bored at the time. And one day I actually was commentating a WWE match with my mic unmuted. So everyone in the lobby was actually listening. And I did not know anybody was listening, by the way. And lo and behold, I get a message from somebody by the name of King Jacob 316. And he told me that he was a part of this community called the Halo Weekly, which was the name of the community at the time. And King Jacob 316, he was the man that started this entire thing. He was the person that had a vision and wanted to create a very, very rich and illustrious community. And he, of course, created the Gaming Weekly, which was the Halo Weekly at the time. And he would send me a message saying, hey, listen, we're looking for people. And we're looking for on-air talent. We're looking for people who would be willing to interview our contestants, our participants. And you sound like somebody who has a lot of confidence in your voice. So we're wondering if you would like to audition and actually try out. And I said, what the heck? You know, I usually do this every single time at school, so why not? And I accepted the offer and I auditioned, and I actually got the part. What was interesting was at the time, I said to myself, well, this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be here probably for about a year or two, get some experience. And then after I get some experience, I'm going to go ahead and just hang it up and just leave TGW. Well, 10 years later, I never left. You're still stuck with me. So, but I mean, it's been a blast for the past 10 years being a part of this incredible community. You know, being a part of the Gaming Weekly has been one of the greatest highlights of my life, and it's been absolutely incredible since the beginning of it. And, you know, sometimes I really do wonder what would have happened if I delivered that particular WWE commentary with my headset muted. So take it as you will, but at that particular time, at that particular moment and day, I was doing commentary with my headset unmuted, and thankfully King Jacob was there. Otherwise, who knows? Maybe I would have never joined the Gaming Weekly to begin with. But yeah, 10 years after, I'm still here, so it's been great.
Yeah. Now, my question is, so you were an interviewer. How did you actually go from being the interviewer, just this kid, this interviewer, to actually being a full-on commentator for the Gaming Weekly?
So that was pretty interesting. In fact, I think it was back in 2014. That's when the Gaming Weekly board of directors and the creative team were telling everyone that they had a shortage of announcers because the play-by-play announcers were leaving, the color announcers were leaving, the commentators were leaving left and right, and they were dropping like flies. So they didn't really have much commentators to actually call the events. So one day they came in contact with me and they said, hey, listen, we know that we exclusively recruited you here in TGW for you to be an interviewer. However, we really, really are desperately looking for more announcers, and we feel that you would have potential to be a commentator. And I remember telling them, saying, hey, listen, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. However, I'm not sure if this is going to be a smart idea because I don't know anything about the mechanics of video games. I don't know anything at all about video games in general. And furthermore, the only experience I had for commentary, if you want to call it that, was just me practicing WWE in my free time. So I told him, I don't think it's going to be a good idea. I'll do it for you guys, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a good idea because I really don't know anything about video games, not enough for me to just be a play-by-play announcer and call the match from beginning to end. And they said, well, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and try it out, see what happens. And so I said, okay, and I auditioned. And a couple of weeks after, the staff members for TGW, they told me that they loved it, that they saw value in me, they saw a lot of potential, and they basically shifted and transitioned me from being an interviewer to being the official top commentator for the Gaming Weekly. And I was completely shocked because at the time, I was absolutely green. Again, I didn't know anything about video games. I was just completely oblivious to just about every single thing about them, the rules and the buttons and so on and so forth. So this was probably around June of 2015. So at the end of 2014, that's whenever they experienced the shortage of announcers. By June of 2015, that's when I auditioned. And a few weeks after, I became the commentator. And I remember as a commentator, I did what I could to sound credible. And even though this wasn't really my expertise, I didn't want to let the Gaming Weekly down. And I did what I could to prepare for these broadcasts over the weekend. I did what I could to sound credible. And so that was back in 2015. Now in 2022, I can honestly say that I'm having a blast being a commentator. I did not expect for me to be a commentator in the Gaming Weekly. Again, initially I was here only to be an interviewer. But again, now the year being 2022, I was thrown in the deep end per se in 2015, but I learned to swim, and now I'm a very comfortable announcer. And I'm having a blast every single weekend. When that red light is on Twitch, I'm having a blast commentating these great events. And another thing that I wanted to throw in there is interviewing and the art of commentary are two completely different concepts. They are completely different things. For interviewing, all you have to do is just basically ask questions. You have to make sure that you embellish what's going on in the situation at hand. You got to make sure you ask questions. That way the viewers can get a different perspective. For commentary, on the other hand, though, you have to make sure that you paint a picture. And painting a picture is probably one of the most difficult things that you can do when you're live on air. But regardless, though, it was a challenge for me, though. It was a challenge and an obstacle for me to become an interviewer, then transition to a realm that I've never been in before, that being commentary. But it was a nice obstacle for me to come over. And again, 2022, I've been having a blast doing commentary. And it's great. I absolutely love it. It's the greatest feeling in the world, being able to just sit back and announce what's going on in the game itself, being able to commentate these incredible superstars, the incredible participants from the Gaming Weekly, and being able to help these guys look like stars. That's our jobs as commentators. We have to make sure that we actually do what we can to enhance the superstars that you see on screen.
One of the things that I actually liked while you were talking there is I like how you actually mentioned commentary. You're saying that it's over your time of becoming a commentator. It was pretty hard. It's not easy. It's hard.
So a lot of people actually think commentary consists of you just sitting there and commentating what you see on screen. And I got to tell you, that couldn't be any further from the truth. As a commentator, you got to make sure that you embellish the broadcast, that you got to make sure that you paint the picture. And what I mean by that is basically when you're embellishing the broadcast, you have to make sure that you allow the audience to have a clear perception. You allow the audience to understand what the importance of the broadcast is. And as a commentator, you are also there as a storyteller, because we're really, in essence, storytellers in TGW. Broadcast commentary itself is more than just commentating. It's, again, being able to dig in between the lines, to scratch further than the surface, as that proverbial expression goes, and to make sure that we talk about the stories, we talk about the psychology of the match, and we talk about why this person is battling in this match, and we talk about the history behind it, and we also talk about many different components, and we hit each and every single key point. Commentary, again, is more than just you talking about what you see on screen. It's more so about the psychology and the story of what's going on, and answering the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why, and of course answering the H and how. Good broadcast commentary consists of announcers trying to make sure that the superstars, the participants playing in the game, get over. And what I mean by getting over is making sure that they become larger than life superstars per se. Here in the Gaming Weekly, if we had commentators just commentating what you see 100% of the time on screen, that's not really helping much about the players you see on screen. Instead, as commentators, you have to explain their background, and you have to talk about the story, and you have to talk about many different things within the game itself. Otherwise, again, the audience would get bored. The commentary is going to fall flat, and the games themselves are going to be ruined. So going back to the question at hand, is commentary hard? Absolutely. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And I respect all broadcasters from the past, present, and of course in the future who are willing to do this. And not just in the Gaming Weekly, but broadcasters in general, because there is so much pressure. When that red light is on, it's fun. But at the same time, simultaneously speaking, there is so much pressure as well, because there's so many different things that you have to do as a commentator. There's so many different components and departments and key points that you have to hit. And again, it all goes back to what I was saying, embellishing the broadcast. That way you can use terms that will stick with you. You can use a lot of different words. That way you can actually help a particular person really seem really, really good on screen. For example, I'll use Asisha Pai, for example. Asisha Pai, who is the Rocket League and Minecraft champion simultaneously. My broadcast colleague and me, I should say, Xbox Freak Peen and myself, we actually embellish this greatly. We tell everyone that Asisha Pai is a decorated superstar. He is a dual champion. He's undefeated. We have a person here that is completely focused. That's what I mean by embellishing, making sure that people understand that the players you see on screen are taken seriously. And in talking about the stories, explaining the psychology of the match and explaining why this match is happening. So commentary, again, it's not easy. Many people out there say that it's the easiest thing because all you got to do is just sit and talk and see what you see on screen. But that's not true. It's more than that. And it really is high pressure. It's fun. It's exciting. But overall, it's not easy.
Yeah, that's interesting. You've been here for almost 10 years, and so you're the voice of the fans, but for the first time you ended up turning heel. How was that? Were people mad at you?
People hated me. And I mean legitimately hated me. There was a backlash in the Gaming Weekly. People were complaining left and right. They were saying this buffoon, this loudmouth, this egotist who thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread is hugging up all the attention. He has all the spotlights, whereas we, the players, the competitors, are the most important factors in TGW. We're battling for championships. We're trying to be in the videos, trying to make this channel look good. And this guy has all the attention. And I try to justify it. I said, hey, listen, this is a big attraction. When do you see a commentator compete in matches? When do you see a commentator become so controversial that he's in the spotlight right now? This is huge. And I try to justify it, even though a lot of people actually hated it. And it was so haha, and it was so over the top, and it was so controversial being a heel. There's so many different stories. I do got to say, though, there was one valuable lesson that we learned throughout that little stint, and that is your play-by-play announcer, your lead announcer, cannot be a heel, and it does not work. And the fans do not like that. And the reason behind that was because as a lead announcer, as the guy that everyone has to listen to, you have to have trust. The audience, they need to trust the commentator. They have to have a form of trust there. Sort of like Walter Cronkite, who at one point in time was, the most trustworthy newsman at the time. And people actually tuned into the news to trust him, and they trusted what he said. And that's the same concept here. People have to make sure that they trust the guy that they're listening to. And in this case, I was the lead announcer. And for the first time ever in history, the Gaming Weekly decided to choose the top announcer to be a heel. Now, again, despite the fact that it was so much fun and it was so haha, at the end of the day, they kind of said, okay, at this point in time, we have to revert you back to just being a normal announcer because not a lot of people are really trusting what you're saying anymore. And being a play-by-play announcer while also being a heel was a very, very difficult task. It was a lot of fun. It was something different. It was something new, but it was a very difficult task because you had to play the character while also being the play-by-play announcer, while also being the trustworthy announcer, announcing the games and telling people what's going to happen next week and so forth. What was really, really cool about this, though, what was so much fun was usually as a commentator, you're basically presenting the news. You're informing the audience the news. However, for the first time ever, I was the news. So it broke the formula in TGW history. No announcer, no play-by-play announcer in history was ever a heel. For the first time, though, the Gaming Weekly decided to do something different where they put me as a heel. And again, it was a train wreck overall. People were hating it left and right. It got the attention of so many different celebrities and so many different communities out there, but overall, people completely hated it. They were lambasting me online every single time. I got booed loudly in events. But overall, it was a lot of fun, and it was great. I actually have a pretty interesting story I got to tell you. So I think it was April 16th. That was the first match I had against Minigun Killer 10, who, of course, is a respected TGW superstar. And basically, him and I were involved in the program, and I was just building up the match. At one point in time, he would challenge me one-on-one, and I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept this challenge, but we're going to have 5 weeks of training, and I had my own trainer. I never really had my own trainer. I was just basically saying that to make me look cool. But anyway, so I was just building up the match every single week, and at one point in time, I thought to myself a plan, and said, wouldn't it be interesting if I actually rig the match? And I actually told the board of directors, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be hosting this game, right? And they said, yeah. And I told them, well, if I do something that will basically be in my favor, would you get upset? And the board said, no, it's entertainment, so just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. So nobody knew about this plan that I had. And basically, before we got to the match, I remember waking up. It was April 16th. I woke up, and I was so excited. I was so elated. I was talking about this match for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Finally, it has come down to this. April 16th is here. Now's the day for me to shine. Well, my internet actually went down for a couple of hours, and I was scared to death because I thought it was some form of hack that somebody did. Out of all the days my internet went down, it had to be the day that I was going to be competing in a match. And I remember sitting there saying, I'm about to lose the biggest match ever for me, in the Gaming Weekly history because of this hack or whatever. Thankfully, about maybe 2 hours before the show went on, my internet went back up. So anyways, not a lot of people actually knew this, but before the match even went down, this was probably maybe 2 days before, I went on Forge on Halo. So the match between me and Minigun was going to be taking place on Halo, and I actually placed a Banshee at the top of this platform. So when the match actually happened, I went on that Banshee, and I got in there, and I just shot Minigun down 3 times, and I won the match. And everybody in that party, they were upset about it. Everybody on Discord, they were upset about that as well. They were angry. They were frustrated. They were saying, oh, my God, this guy won, and he's not going to change anytime soon, and his ego is going to grow. He won the match. He cheated and so forth. And I remember being so happy about it because nobody knew. The board of directors told me in DMs, they said, you know what, that was very, very entertaining. We actually did not expect that, to be honest with you, but that's completely fine. It's all entertainment in the end. But I was able to just win that match against Minigun the first time around. And I'll never forget this. I remember Scorch, who, by the way, usually never watches the broadcasts for me. For the first time, he was watching the broadcast for me because I remember he told me that I was the most annoying thing ever, and he wanted to see me get my rear end kicked. So he was watching, and I remember I texted him after the show, and I told him, so what'd you think? And he told me, that was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen ever. Not just in TGW, but ever. And I couldn't stop laughing because Scorch, who's a wonderful guy, of course, sad that he's not as active anymore, but a very good human being, one of the greatest leaders TGW's ever had. The fact that he actually said that was one of the most pathetic things he's ever seen really, really defined this entire story. And again, it was a lot of fun. It was something new. It was something different, something that's never been done before in the history of the Gaming Weekly. But overall, being a heel commentator, yes, people hated it. And I don't think perhaps they're never going to do that ever again. I think they're okay with just me being the natural, straight-laced play-by-play announcer. And I'm fine with it too. Hey, listen, either a heel or a face, I'm completely fine with either of those roles. However, I gotta say, at the end of the day, it was a blast. And one of the things that I love about the heel character, the heel stuff that I did, was how I got a lot of reactions. And that's what you have to do as a character. You have to make sure that you get a lot of reactions out of people. Otherwise, you're not playing your character correctly. You're not playing the heel character correctly. And in this case, like I said, it got a lot of the reactions from celebrities, and it got a lot of reactions from different communities out there. So I'm proud of the work that I delivered, and at the end of the day, it was so much fun. Sure, it was annoying for a lot of different people, but overall, it really, really was a fun time. And I look back at it and I say, wow, what a fun 5 months or whatever it was. From January to May, that's when I really became the top heel in the Gaming Weekly, and I was just being an egotist. And I got to say, I didn't have any friends at the time. I didn't really have anyone to talk to, so my ego legitimately did get out of control even outside of the Gaming Weekly. I was telling people randomly, I was saying, hey, listen, you're talking to a person here who is going to be competing in a match. I'm an announcer and also a competitor at the same time. That makes me better than all of you. And I was growing a big head behind the scenes, and my ego was getting out of control. Did I enjoy my ego getting out of control? No way. But it was a really fun time. It was a unique time, being in the Gaming Weekly for about 10 years. It was just me being an interviewer to a commentator. Never in the history of TGW was I ever involved in something that big, in something that controversial, and being in the center of the entire spotlight. That was absolutely incredible. And again, I look back and I really am proud of the work that I delivered. One of the things is that when you're playing a heel, you have to make sure that you actually get a lot of reactions. And that's what they're looking for. And thankfully for me, it got more reactions than what anybody expected. Like I said, celebrities, communities outside of TGW, people outside, of the Xbox realm, the Gaming Weekly itself, a lot of people within it. So everyone was reacting about this egotistical announcer who, of course, is basically pushing everyone away and thinking about himself only and putting himself over. And, he's the guy that's talking about himself on commentary, and he's going to be in a match and, talking about someone's family member and so forth. That right there got a lot of reaction, and I'm really proud of the stuff that I did for that story.
Oh yeah, that's that's actually an amazing and interesting story that I'm really happy we're doing this interview so we can actually understand these stories, but you get a ton of hate in the Gaming Weekly, a ton of it. How do you deal with it? And I have another question here. Is it true that you were actually hated at school? I know you mentioned it in the previous questions, but is it actually true?
So I do get hated a lot on the Gaming Weekly, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But before I get to that, though, the one thing that I'm very proud of here in TGW in the past 10 years, the thing that I was able to provide from beginning all the way to the end was the work ethic. And that's the most important thing for me. That's the thing that I want people to really talk about. I pride myself in being the hardest working person, not just in the Gaming Weekly, but also, elsewhere at my job, at my work, school, whatever the case may be. I pride myself in really becoming the hardest working person there can be. And that's who I am. I want people to rely on me. I want people to really look back and say, wow, this person can work. And it's the same person here in the Gaming Weekly. I should say it's the same story here in the Gaming Weekly. I want people to really, when I retire one day, when I hang up the headset, so to speak, I want people to really say, you know what, he may have not been the fan favorite here in TGW, but boy, Adrian Matt did work his tail off. He worked 10 years flawlessly. He worked so hard doing commentary, making sure the broadcasts were absolutely fluid and they were smooth, working on projects behind the scenes, and so on and so forth. That's what I want people to remember my legacy. I want people to really, really, the day that I leave, I want my legacy to lie on the fact that I was a hard-working person. If I were to retire in the Gaming Weekly tomorrow and I was completely hated, that'd be fine, honestly. I'd be happy because despite the fact that, sure, I'm not liked in TGW by the majority, I would be absolutely elated knowing that I retired in this community, knowing that I gave it my all, that I gave it 110% every single week, that I was putting 110% on commentary, and I was able to commit to this and so forth. So that right there is important to me, my work ethic. Now, going to the hate that I get in the Gaming Weekly, that's true. I get booed just about every single week in TGW, so there we go. There's a lot of Adrian Matt Sucks videos on YouTube too, so that's one thing. But listen, to each of their own. Hey, listen, you know what? They're vocal. Let them have a voice, whatever the case may be. If they want to hand on me, that's completely fine. The thing that I don't want people to, the thing that people can't take away from me is the work ethic that I provided. One of the reasons why I believe I'm not the most liked here in TGW, there's various reasons, and I think the first one is because of the residual heat that is still lingering around of me being that snarky heel commentator. You know, people still view me as that snarky, sarcastic commentator that I've been for months and months and months on end. So people still view me that way, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't like me. I think the heel story soured a lot of people out there. And another reason has to be the fact that I was the one that was picked in TGW over any other announcer. And I was the one that didn't have the game experience. I didn't have a gaming background. You know, I've been told many times before, hey, listen, I played video games many times. I know more about video games than you, and yet they picked you as the announcer. I could do a better job than you, and so forth. So that's another reason as to why I'm probably not the most liked, because a lot of people still view me as that guy as well who doesn't really have much gaming in him. And also another reason has to be because I'm not really the most relatable. You know, the most relatable in terms of socially, you know, being accepted. What I mean by that is most people are very good at video games. I'm not. I'm very bad at them. So most people don't really want to play. That's the first thing. And then second off, I think I'm quite different from most people in terms of I don't like cursing. You know, I'm not really that much of a big meme guy as most people are. You know, most people just kind of view me as the quote lame, corny guy, and because of that, they kind of just stay away and they kind of just hate on me for that. And like I said, that's fine. It's completely fine. They can hate on me for whatever reason they have. The one thing that they cannot take away from me, no matter what, is the work ethic that I provided. Going back to that, the work ethic that I put in TGW, that's what matters to me. And I always tell people out there, for anybody who wants to be an announcer here in TGW, or for anyone, not just in the Gaming Weekly, but for anyone who wants to have some form of job, they have to commit to it no matter what it is, whether if it's being a teacher or a scientist or a dentist, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to strive for in life. I always tell them you have to have a great work ethic. Doesn't matter which job you strive for, have a great work ethic, because then that's when people are going to start looking up to you. They're going to have respect for you. They're going to rely on you. So that's what I always say. Make sure to have a great work ethic. And to your second question, by the way, was I hated on at school? Well, I was. This is pretty funny, I guess, if you kind of look back into it. But I was the voice of my high school. I was the student journalist in my middle and high school as well. And the thing about that is I was the kid that always, you know, reminded the teacher about the homework from last night. There's a meme going around on the internet always saying, you know, that kid, whenever they remind the teacher from the homework from last night, and everyone hates that kid. I was that kid. I was always reminding the teacher, hey, did you collect the homework from last night? Because I was always paranoid about my grades. You know, I always wanted my grades to be as high as they can be. And I always got paranoid if the teacher forgot to collect the homework. And I would always remind them, and people would always get upset. And I guess it's because of the fact that I was always the one answering the questions. You know, it was just me always raising my hands over and over and over. So I was just the teacher's pet, and people didn't like that. And then when I got to high school, I became the voice of it. I was the top voice of the high school. I was the one delivering the announcements and all that. And nobody wanted me to get that title. There was another person who was a high school jock. Everyone looked up to him. He was so popular. He was, of course, trying to get that title as well. And I got the part. He didn't. So a lot of people in that school were not happy with me because I got the part. So I was booed at graduation, by the way. But nonetheless, I was hated on at school as well. But listen, I don't look back and say, hey, you know what? I've had a bad life. Absolutely not. I look back and I always look at my work, no matter if I was hated or not. And I look back at my school days, and I was proud of the work that I delivered there too. The newspapers, the interviews, the announcements, the camera, the on-camera stuff, I should say, that I did. I did a lot of good things. And again, I look back, and despite the fact that I was completely hated on, I'm fine with my work, and I'm happy with it. So that's what matters to me. And at the end of the day, despite the fact that I got booed here in TGW and I was booed at graduation and I was completely hated on in real life, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. One thing that I know for a fact people understand is that I do bring work ethic. That right there is my number one when it comes to being in a business, company, or in a community. Having good work ethic.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that we got some of that insight there. But one of my questions that I've been waiting to ask you is, Do you have any issues with the direction of TGW and where it's going right now?
I actually have no problem with the direction of the Gaming Weekly and the community itself. In fact, I've embraced it. And the thing that I want to mention here is that in order for the Gaming Weekly to really evolve, and in order for the Gaming Weekly to change its style, for us to grow, in order for us to really reach to the next level, we have to make difficult and controversial decisions. That way the community can actually grow. There's been many times before when there were some controversial decisions that had to be made, but it had to be made for the sake of the health of the community. There's a reason why we've been here for 10 years, and it's because the Gaming Weekly truly is systematically controlled for the sake of the community itself. It's controlled, but it's for the good. And the direction that we're heading into right now, I couldn't be prouder. I mean, the Gaming Weekly has been absolutely incredible over the past couple of months. Ever since the new batch of executives, there's been a huge spark. There's been more collaborations. There's been more interactions. People have been talking about our content left and right. People have been, praising our content. We've been hosting a lot of Rainbow Six Siege tournaments and championships lately. We hosted the Beat the Clock Challenge for the first time on Rocket League. We're, of course, celebrating the 10-year anniversary event this coming Saturday on July 16th. We'll be uploaded on YouTube a few days after. And I mentioned the word celebration because it really is a celebration of everything we have accomplished in the past, everything we have accomplished in the present, and everything we're going to accomplish in the future. And that's the cool thing about the Gaming Weekly, how there are so many memories and moments made here in TGWs. There's so many things that you can do that will stick with you for a long, long time. And that's the beauty of the Gaming Weekly. And listen, it isn't all roses. No community is. The Gaming Weekly has had its fair share of issues in the past, externally and internally. But the beauty about the Gaming Weekly is that when we have issues, the community really works together, and they actually have a unique bond that I see, and they do what they can to solve those issues. Even if they're not seeing eye to eye, everyone is on the same team. And that's what I really love about the Gaming Weekly, the fact that everyone is on the same team and everyone has each other's backs no matter what. And one thing that I do want to mention, in terms of, you mentioned direction. And I can't complain about the direction that we're heading into because we've had more creativity than ever before. There's been some unique content that I've been seeing. There's going to be a lot more projects in the future, which I can't wait. So the Gaming Weekly is heading into a very unique direction, which I can't wait. And speaking about the Gaming Weekly in general, I've always had fun in the past years and so on. But the thing about the Gaming Weekly itself is that TGW, it's one thing for us to say, hey, listen, we're live, and we have many people around the world joining us, people from Australia, people from New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Mexico, Canada, and so forth. It's one thing to mention that. It's a completely different story to actually meet people in there in the game nights. For example, I'll never forget this. I always use this as an example, but, a couple of years back, I remember this person from the United Kingdom. He told me, wow, I stayed up all the way until 3 a.m. so I could actually be a part of this game night, and I don't regret it because it's been so much fun. And I remember thinking, wow, this community has an unbelievable reach with its audience. The fact that we're willing to actually touch someone's heart so much so that they would be willing to stay up until 3 a.m. just so they can participate in our game nights. And that's what I love about the Gaming Weekly, the fact that everyone is in a unit. There's a bond. The Gaming Weekly is universal, so to speak. It's one language, and that language is the game nights that we host. The game nights is that bond that everyone has, no matter where you're from, no matter which language you speak. Of course, many people from France at one point in time attended the TGW game night, and most of them actually spoke French. But we invited them, and they had a blast playing Rocket League at the time. So the point is, I don't complain. I'm not complaining about the direction that TGW is heading into right now. I think it's a really, really wonderful time to be a TGW fan. And there's more people from all over the world really coming in. And I really, really am excited for this community. I've been excited for it for a long time. But this moment, at this stage, in this era, the Gaming Weekly really is going to do some wonderful and unique things that I can't wait to see. After 10 years of celebrating TGW, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But I can guarantee you that the future is looking bright for this community. And I'm telling you this right here, right now. I couldn't be prouder with the people that we actually have in TGW today as well. there's some very, very talented players that we keep seeing on Rainbow Six Siege and Rocket League and all those players who actually get the chance to compete in the game nights. And they are so nice and they're so pleasant. And you can tell that they have smiles on their faces when they're talking about this content. You can tell that they're having a blast. And that's what we want in the Gaming Weekly. We want the Gaming Weekly to distract people from the personal issues that they may be facing. Currently there's a lot of issues happening in this world. Unfortunately, there could be social, economical, or political issues that people may be facing, whether people are facing frustrations or depression, anger, something like that within the family. We, as the Gaming Weekly, like to take the fact that we like to take pride in we're ones who are distracting those people from their issues. The Gaming Weekly is the community to go to when you want to get distracted. If you want to go on a game night and have fun in a Rocket League event, or be a part of the Halo minigames that we've hosted in the past, and so on, this is the community, because this channel really does allow you to distract yourself from the issues that you may be facing in real life. So there's been many times, too, when people in the past have come up to us and said, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for being there for me, because this channel has been there for me when I was at my lowest. And this channel, at the very least, it allows me to escape. It allows me to bring a smile on my face. It allows me to actually be happy. And that's what people have said multiple times in the past. And that's the best part, because it's not about me. It's not about the executives. It's not about the board of directors. It's about the people attending the game nights. It's about them. It's about the people who really, really want to have a good time and just forget about any issues they may be facing. So that's what matters to me. So I'm not complaining about the direction that we're heading into, and I've never complained in the past, because TGW overall, it was always about the fans, it was always about the people, and it was always about making sure that we bring a form of joy in their lives and distract them from any negativity that they may be facing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So you have worked with a lot of commentators, and I mean a lot of commentators over, your years here, but who did you hate the most, and who is your, number one commentator?
So first and foremost, I would never talk badly about an announcer openly like this. Listen, I respect every single announcer that's delivered broadcast commentary through the years. I know how hard that job is. I know how difficult it is, and it can be very stressful at times. It can be quite difficult. There's a lot of pressure. So I respect all the announcers in the past, and of course, present, future, whatever the case may be. Commentary is very, very hard. And I know there's a lot of announcers out there that talk badly about me, but I'm not like them. So listen, I have more class than that. So in terms of my favorite announcer, well, this is such a loaded question, because I've worked with so many different commentators through the years, and they were each unique in their own right. And I do have an answer for that one, which I will get to, but let me go ahead and just start off by saying Altered Beast, one of the funniest broadcasters that I've worked with. He was unpredictable. He was very funny. He made a lot of comments that actually made a lot of people laugh. And at one point in time, he made me laugh many times too. But he was the funniest broadcaster I worked with. Yellowish Object, I didn't have to do any work with him. He would go out there and just do his own stuff, and him and I would be a pretty good team back in the day when we were calling the Fortnite events back in 2018, a little bit of 2019 too. So he was a very, very unique person to work with. Rebel Teen Time 87, very, very interesting. He was a character as well. He was the leader of the Rebel Weekly, so it was a very, very interesting time to work with a person that would provide a different perspective on commentary. Undead Freak, who I got the chance to work with as well many times before. Probably one of the most, he was the most assertive commentator that I've worked with. But at the same time, he did provide some interesting notes here and there as well. He did provide some key points on commentary too. But the number one commentator that I worked with in TGW and in the Gaming Weekly history has to be Xbox Freak Pete. And I'll tell you why. When I first started being an announcer in the Gaming Weekly, I was actually, again, I was already at the early going, already completely hated on. As I mentioned before in the interview, a lot of people said, well, this guy has no gaming experience. He has no business being a commentator. So right off the bat, people didn't like that. So I was doing what I could every week on commentary to regain credibility, to actually get respect from everyone. That's what I was trying to do. And then Minigun Killer 10 came in, and he actually became a commentator, and him and I were a team at one point in time, and he knew exactly everything about the video games. He knew everything about the weapons. He knew everything about the mechanics. I knew about the broadcasting aspects of it, but Minigun knew about the video games. So he didn't really know much about the broadcasting component of commentary, but he knew a lot about the weapons and the video games themselves. So at the time, years ago, people were crediting Minigun over and over and over. And as for me, who was he working with? Well, it was Adrian Matt, the guy that nobody really liked. So it wasn't really going to be like that. When Xbox Freak Pete came into the scene, and him and I were a team, that's when I really got things going for commentary. That's when I really started to get some credit, because Xbox Freak Pete was a completely different person than any other person that I worked with. When we first started working, by the way, him and I were going back and forth. There was a tremendous amount of chemistry. I would tie up the loose ends of each story. He would talk about certain things about the games. He was providing the comic relief. I was providing the play-by-play. And there was a tremendous amount of chemistry. And Xbox Freak Pete, by the way, up to that point, he was very aggressive at that time. And he wanted to prove that, he was a respected commentator. And he didn't have any filters, by the way. He was a person that would go out there and say whatever he felt like saying. And me, on the other hand, I would actually play off of that too. I would actually respond to what he was saying on commentary, and I would call the action, and we'd tell stories, and we'd talk about our certain opinions. And at that time, I was under the shadow, so to speak. I was in the shadows of the respect of the fans. People didn't really give me that respect. When I worked with Xbox Freak Pete, he was the one that got me out of that shadow. He was the one that allowed fans to understand, okay, this Adrian person, we may not like him, but he seems to be a very good commentator. He's working well with Xbox Freak Pete. We're going to give him a chance. And him and I became a very good team through the years. And, at this point in time, we're still the broadcast team for TGW. And, Xbox is very good at what he does. He's able to pinpoint exactly what he needs to say. He's able to tell good stories as well. He's able to analyze the video games themselves too. And he's able to, the best part about Xbox Freak Pete is that he's very quick-witted. He knows what to say at that given time. When I'm done talking, he will have something to say no matter what. So him and I will go back and forth, just like always. We'll go back and forth delivering commentary, telling stories, talking about the history, and so forth. And that's why I believe, in my opinion, Xbox Freak Pete is the greatest announcer I've worked with, because of his skills and because of what happened years ago. He was the one that allowed fans to understand that I really am a good announcer.
Yeah. Okay. So you say Xbox Freak Pete is your best commentary partner, but in your mind, who's your best TGW member? Not like, commentator, but just a normal member who has, who's your really number one TGW member?
So this is a loaded question as well, because there are so many people in the past couple of months that I have to mention now. I've always been a loner in the Gaming Weekly, but lately there has been a few people that I have to mention that I've been talking to that have been absolutely incredible. So I mentioned, by the way, the number one announcer. To answer this particular question, I have to mention multiple people, because each and every single one of them, I have to mention them for who they are. They are absolutely incredible people. They are so they're so pleasant to be around, which I'm going to get to. But the first person that comes to mind for sure is Sisha Pai. Him and I met years ago during a recruiting session for the Gaming Weekly. I remember vividly inviting random people, and he joined along with his friends. And I remember his friends being a little outspoken. They were trolling, to put it bluntly. But he was the one that was very respectful. He was actually complimenting about the channel. He was complimenting my commentary, while the others were kind of throwing jokes here and there. But I remember Sisha Pai being very respectful and very kind, and I said, wow, this person seems really cool. But that was back in 2019. We kind of lost contact through the years. It wasn't until late 2021 whenever he returned. And in 2022, when I became a very, very strong heel, he was the one that first showed care. It wasn't until March, I believe, March of 2022, I think, he started holding back a little bit. He said, listen, you know what? We should actually give Adrian a chance. And the fact of the matter is he gained my respect. I mean, Asisha Pai is a very, very all-around a good person. Thankfully, we have someone like him. And we're so lucky to have a person like Asisha Pai, because here's a person who's very intelligent. Here's a person who's very aware of things. Here's a person that is willing to actually not follow the crowd, but instead of following the crowd, here's a person that will do his research and really understand what's going on and actually talk to the person. Again, I mentioned my ego getting out of control for real. And when my ego was getting out of control, Asisha Pai, was actually talking to me. He was saying, listen, there's no point in arguing. And he tried helping out. And he was trying to help out everyone in the community as well. So that's the type of person that Asisha Pai is. He's a person that is a stand-up guy. He's willing to put the Gaming Weekly first as well. He's been doing a tremendous job as an executive. As an executive, I couldn't be prouder. He has been commanding respect, and he's also being fair with everyone. And also, you can tell that he really is excited for TGW. And the fact that he's a Rocket League competitor and performer, and he's a great one at that. He's a Minecraft champion as well as RL champion. But overall, in terms of personality, Asisha Pai is one of the best. I have to mention him for sure. And he's one of the greatest guys I ever got the chance to meet. The other person I have to mention for sure is only option one. Him and I got the chance to, over the past couple of weeks, we actually got the chance to play a few things. And he's a very welcoming person, a very pleasant person to be around. And you can tell that he's very intelligent as well. You can tell that he's incredibly creative. He's actually working on some projects behind the scenes that I can't wait for him to release soon. And he's very committed to this, just like Asisha Pai. You can tell that he's very committed to this. You can tell that only option one is a person that is willing to help the channel. He is a person that is willing to actually, do a lot of different things for the sake of the channel. And it's people like him who we absolutely respect. I respect the guy tremendously. Here's another person as well that also, when I was being egotistical, he tried helping out too. So overall, a very good person, a good soul, and like I said, a very creative person who, my gosh, has a lot of different things happening, coming up soon. I don't know if you guys actually got the chance to see any of his drawings that he posted on Discord, but his drawings are really, really good. They're very detailed and authentic and organic. But overall, in terms of him, he's a really good person. I have to mention him as well. And another person that I have to 100% certainly and definitely mention here is somebody with the name of What the Dog Doing, who goes by Glitch on Xbox. And in our server, he's known as I Support Adrian Matt. And ever since I met him, it has been one of the greatest things. I mean, he is the nicest person I've ever met. I mean, every single time I talk to him, he is so kind. He is so respectful, so polite. Not just that, but also it's absolutely incredible to see a person like him in the Gaming Weekly. I mean, ever since I met him, I've been revitalized per se. I get the chance to talk to him a couple of times, and he is, like I said, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in TGW and so on. This person is so positive. He always has the nicest things to say. He always messages me asking how my day is going. When I get the chance, I, of course, respond back. And, I mean, overall, he is one of my favorites in TGW. And I think at this point in time, everyone should understand how lucky we are to have a person like him, too. Asisha Pai, Only Option are dedicated to the channel, and the same goes for Glitch. For What the Dog Doing. He is so dedicated to this channel, and he's done so much over the past couple of weeks and really in the last couple of months. But I mean, overall, as a person, he is a person that got the chance to talk to me many times. He's a person that I deeply, deeply respect. I'm very proud of the person that he is. He's very wise beyond his years. I got the chance to talk to him the first time around, and he was very, very respectful, and he was bringing up some very good points here and there. Here's another person that really, really understands how to actually connect to someone, and he's such a personable person. And the thing about What the Dog Doing is we need people like him here in this channel. If you ever get the chance to talk to him, I mean, again, he lights up a room. He is so, so kind. It's infectious. And one of my favorite things to do over the weekend is just to get the chance to talk to him. But I remember as an egotist, he also was willing to help, and he was, trying to calm the situation down. And at the end of the day, he said, listen, I'm not going to join the crowd as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually support Adrian. And, I'm never, ever going to forget about that. And I'm always grateful about this, the fact that he was able to just give me his respect. And I have, a good friend on my side. So it's the greatest thing for me. Again, What the Dog Doing, I have to mention him for sure, 100%. One of my favorites in TGW. Other people we have to mention for sure, Hidden, Echo. Those two were so kind enough a few weeks back when I was celebrating my birthday. Those two didn't have to do this. They didn't have to, but they did anyways. They literally created a map world based off of me and my birthday, and they wished me happy birthday, and they sang me happy birthday. I thought that was definitely the nicest thing anybody's ever done in terms of, celebrating my birthday. I thought that was so cool. And Hayden and Echo have been very, very nice ever since we met. We had a rocky start at first in TGW. We got the chance to work with each other, and I thought they were very, very cool people, and we became close. So I have to mention Hidden and Echo. I mean, Hidden, again, one of my favorites in TGW. He's such a good guy, very interesting to talk to. And Echo, on the other hand, another guy who's very kind as well. The thing about Echo, I really like Echo. He actually is very funny and respectful and very kind. And, I mentioned the word dedication. And Echo oozes dedication. He embodies dedication. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, he was named the new executive, and Echo actually, right off the bat, made changes. Right off the bat, he made a lot of changes. In fact, just a few days ago, the Gaming Weekly got done doing its first giveaway prize on Discord. It was a Discord Nitro giveaway, and he was willing to do that. And now that we're going to be celebrating 4,000 members soon, he's actually willing to buy a $25 gift card for the sake of the Gaming Weekly, and he's willing to give that out once we hit 4,000. So here's a person who's very thoughtful, who's very considerate. Echo is a very, very great asset to this channel. You can already tell. I mean, it's been just a little under a month, and he's been doing a tremendous job as an executive as well. You can already tell that if he keeps this up, he really is going to be someone in the Gaming Weekly, and just overall a good person overall in real life. Outside of the Gaming Weekly, I'm sure he's going to be someone one day. Him and Hidden, again, one of the coolest people I got the chance to talk to, and I really, really like both of them, and I respect them highly, and I got to mention them as well. There's people like Ace Icy as well. Ace, I got the chance to talk to many times. Here's a guy that actually is very intelligent at his own right. I've talked to him many times, and he's very well spoken, and he knows, what is going around. I respect people who are very aware of things, who knows what's going on, and he talks about them. He's very vocal. That's what I like about Ace. Very good guy, I have to mention. There's many people that I have to mention here, but overall, those are the guys that I really, really do like. Hidden, Echo, Asisha Pai, What the Dog Doing, Only Option, Ace, and there's a lot more. But again, I mentioned this is a loaded question, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who might be listening to this and say, hey, you didn't mention me. But, overall, I'm a loner, so maybe there's not many people out there. But anyways, those are the people that I have to mention for sure. And I'm grateful for each of them, and I'm so glad they're here in TGW.
Yeah, wow, that's such an amazing story. I mean, you made me laugh. You made me, now I'm truly, almost touched by this. Look, I feel like I could literally talk to you forever, but you're a really interesting guy. But I have one final question to ask you. When are you planning on leaving the Gaming Weekly?
Well, first off, thank you very much for having me. Absolutely incredible answering your questions.
Yeah, of course.
And when it comes to that question to answer lastly, I don't know how much I have left really in TGW. I know that it's drawing near, but I've been here for 10 years, and the cool thing is I can look back and say, wow, I did something, for a channel.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, first off, I wanted to real quickly mention this. If a person that I've ever trusted ever came up to me, say, for example, an executive came up to me and said, hey, listen, you're slowing out a bit. You're not doing as well on commentary. I would remove myself from commentary immediately and just hang it up there, because I wouldn't want to be a parody myself on commentary. So if there's anybody who I really trust and they would message me saying, hey, listen, Adrian, your commentary is changing, not for the better. It's getting worse.
I would remove myself immediately. That's the first thing. But hopefully I'll be here for just, I guess, maybe just a few more years, maybe a little bit less than that, I think. But the time is coming. I don't know exactly when, don't have an exact date. But when it comes to the Gaming Weekly as a whole, I'm proud of what I've done, and it was a blast. And I'll always remember my memories here in TGW. So it's been absolutely incredible, even if I get booed every week. So, but seriously, thank you so much for this. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll see you guys down the road.
All right, yeah.